Unofficial Commentators back at it again. Of course, JJ Noveocho was already here last week. I was not. Producer Dago you can't see him right now. JJ Noveocho all the way from Brooklyn. What is up, man? How's it going?
Coming off one of the highest viewed episodes, I guess you not being here has something to do with it. People just like the morbid, maybe the fact that I said you died and everybody tuned in to see if it was true. Maybe this one tops it because you're here and now they prove that it wasn't true.
You're a popular guy, man. What can I say?
Anyway, I know one person that didn't watch the show. You hater.
I'm gonna be honest. Okay, I'm going to be honest.
Oh, that's the first.
I started watching it, but I haven't finished it because I've had a ton of fucking work. And then it was Thanksgiving. It was a very hectic week for me, man. Thanksgiving. Yeah, I had some friends over. But whatever. No excuses.
Well, with that being said, you played against me this past week, and I don't know how much time we're going to dedicate to it. So I only have one question for you. How does my ass taste?
I knew you were going to ask that. I fucking knew it. I knew you were going to ask that. Can you come up with a new question, please? I mean, I should jinx you. Knock on wood, man.
Give me the right answer, and I'll stop asking it.
Oh, man. You know what pissed me off? If I wouldn't have listened to you the week before, and again, I'm not blaming you, I would be in a much better playoff spot right now. But
but you keep saying this nonsense. I didn't tell you start Erick Ebron.
You didn't. I'm not blaming you. But we had a discussion
I told you
where you made a case for Erick Ebron, and you convinced me. So
but the case that I make for Erick Ebron was not to put him on your starting lineup, although I didn't see anything wrong with it. The case that I made was if you're not going to use him, then trade him.
Well, we can't trade him. So
well, not at that point.
Well, regardless, I made a decision.
I said it there. It's too late to trade him.
It's my fault. I made a decision based on listening to you. Like you convinced me, whether it was that or not, man. I just what you said made sense, right? So I was like, fuck it, let's go with it. But in your defense, Erick Ebron did kill it last week.
He did.
Yeah, he did kill it again last week, but my team just didn't have enough juice to beat you. So it is what it is, man.
Yeah, and you know what? It might actually cost you, man. That loss that might have killed your chances. Yeah. As I'm looking at the playoff picture, this is week 13, the last week of the fantasy regular season. There's still a lot of moving and shaking to be done. Some people are in. Some teams are on the bubble. Some teams are definitely out. And yeah, that decision to start Ebron over Cook, that might have been your season right there. It all comes down to the little things, Paki. But
it does.
You have an outside chance to still kind of get in, and I'll talk about that a little later.
Exactly. I am very excited about my outside chance this week. I think a lot of the injuries that happened last week, in a way, will benefit me, and that, I guess, takes us right to the waiver wire. The waiver wire part, right? So,
yeah. Well, are we doing waiver wire on the show again? I thought we saved that for Instagram. Have you not been paying attention the last couple of weeks?
Waiver wire.
What's this guy doing?
Waiver wire. I wanted to. It just feels cool when I do that. You know what I mean? Okay. No, yeah, we're definitely doing it on Instagram. But I just wanted to touch a couple of things on the waiver wire, people. Why I feel this is.
Wait. What the hell, man? Are you new? I know you've been gone for a while, but are you new?
What?
Are you a Paki clone? Did we replace you? We never start with waiver wire. We start with awards. So.
But this is not even waiver wires. I just wanted to make a comment on a couple of things. Jeez, Jay. Fine.
Can you save your comments for after the awards?
Fine. I'll just put my phone, my
Ay, pero no te pongas así, cálmate.
While you say your awards.
Okay, it'll be the smartest decision you've ever made. All right, then. So, no bye weeks. Week 13, coming off a wild week 12. Not wild because of necessarily the performances that were out there, but a lot of critical players that may affect your fantasy outlook are now gone for the rest of the season. Other ones may be gone for a shorter period of time, but that's neither here nor there. The awards. All right, the high score. We still don't have a name for the high score. The high score this week.
Hold up. Awards.
Thanks.
I gotta work on this banner.
You definitely do. All right, the highest score this week was the Gotham City Rogues. They scored 169.88 points. Safe to say that everyone on that team went off. It was crazy week for the Gotham City Rogues. The Sucks Dynasty, which I'm debating if we should just call it the Bad Juju Award, because Juju actually scored 40-something in 1 week. That's less than what I put up. But the Sucks dynasty.
Hey, you remember that day when Brito said that Juju Smith just got lucky one day with a big play, and he gets a big play like almost every game. But he's what the fuck kind of logic is this?
I don't know. he was trying to justify the fact that he didn't start Juju.
Yeah.
Kind of the same way that you try to justify starting Erick Ebron.
You ruined the joke.
Hindsight is 20/20, right?
Fucking ruined the joke.
Hindsight is 50/50, as Cam Newton would say.
Camisms. I love Camisms.
All right, so the Sucks dynasty goes to Gordos. Gordos, or Game Pounds at Gordos, scored 73.12 fantasy points. Man, how the mighty have fallen. This guy is squarely out of the playoff picture. And it's a team that started 4-0 with Alvin Kamara just romping all over everyone. We'll look into his team and find out why he's scoring so pathetically. But Jesus, last couple of weeks have been bad for Gordos. Tupela goes to the Gotham City Rogues over Jin and Druce. Gotham City Rogues won by 61.54 fantasy points. La Chepa played against Game Pounds at Gordos. Somehow he managed to win a game where he only scored 85.66 fantasy points. That is weak. But, I mean, the only team that he could have beat with that score, honestly, was Game Pounds at Gordos anyone. So that's the definition of La Chepa. The best fantasy performer, that would be Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey, 38.20 fantasy points. I think he had a combined 200 yards. That's total, both on the ground and in the air. Multiple touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey was an absolute beast. What do you think of Christian McCaffrey, Paki? He got drafted number 13 this year. What do you think his outlook is for next year? Would you draft him?
I think he's a monster, and I drafted him in as many leagues as I could in the second round. I didn't have him as a first rounder, but I think next year he definitely will go up to the second round. The doubt with Christian McCaffrey was whether he can be in between the tackle running back. I mean, they used him more as a gadget guy, and this year he clearly made that transition, man. He is an every down back. He can do it all. I love Christian McCaffrey, man.
All right. So no bye weeks. I mentioned that before. We're way past the trade deadline. The next segment we have is matchups, and we can dedicate as much or as little time as we want to it. So go ahead, Paki. What are these comments you're so dying to tell us?
Waivers. I mean, obviously, we can't make suggestions.
Comments.
We can't make suggestions on the waiver wire right now since we will do those through Instagram, and not to mention that by the time this airs, the waiver wire has passed. But I did wanted to give you guys a couple of heads up. First of all, that Andy Dalton injury, do not fall for that Jeff Driscoll thing. I'm not totally sold on Jeff Driscoll, so do not pick him up. Also, if nobody picks him up, Antonio Callaway, I know I've talked about him all year, but I think this is the time where he's actually useful. So I just want to make a comment about that. And I know you mentioned something about some tight end that has a cool mustache. I know you probably want to talk about that.
He's the backup tight end to the Broncos. That dude has a sweet mustache. I didn't know him before this last game, and I hope this isn't just like a Movember thing.
Right.
But yeah, man, sweet mustache.
Yeah, our league is. I don't know what's wrong with our league regarding quarterbacks. I was looking through our league, and we have Mariota, we have Tannehill, we have Stafford. All of these guys are free agents, so I don't even know if they're worth mentioning in the waiver wires, but that's one of the things that I wanted to touch by. If you're missing a quarterback because of the recent injuries to quarterbacks, there's a lot of options out there to pick. So,
is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Well, thanks for that update, Paki. All right.
Except for Lamar Jackson, which I picked him up last week.
Oh, Lamar Jackson. I have some thoughts on that guy. Maybe we'll touch on him in matches. Maybe we won't.
What are your thoughts on Lamar Jackson? Because I'm not starting him. I'm just stashing him right now.
Well, I said last week that he's good for his own individual points, but he makes everyone around him not fantasy relevant.
Yeah, that's true. That is 100% true. That's actually one of the things we're going to talk about moving forward when we touch the ball.
There wasn't a single player that was projected for more than 7 fantasy points on his team in Baltimore. The only one that was projected for more than 7 was Lamar Jackson.
He's got kind of like that Russell Westbrook vibe, right?
Russell Wilson?
No, Russell Westbrook. Like, he gets all the stats, but nobody else around him does.
Not true. If he has to, because he must put up 10 assists, somebody's getting points.
Right. No, that's not how it works. Everybody that plays with Russell Westbrook sucks.
Incorrect. Matt Lacoste, by the way, is the tight end for Denver with this sweet mustache.
All right, man. Let's get right to it. You have to say it.
Matchups.
So this is where the banner goes, right?
This is where the banner traditionally goes. You just put it all over the place. I'm a little saddened right now. I'm checking out Matt Lacoste's stock picture from the beginning of the year. He doesn't have the mustache, so it must be a Movember thing.
Maybe it is.
But it's working for him. I mean, he might consider it his lucky mustache. He should keep it. It looks good. What a sweet mustache. I wish I could. Must be nice. All right. So matchups. Number 9, the Bad Luck Dynasty, currently with a record of 5-7 versus number 6. Right now, he's in the playoffs, but that could change. Currently with a record of 7-5, the Gotham City Rogues. So, last week of the fantasy football year, tell me what's going on with the Gotham City Rogues.
Gotham City Rogues is actually one of the first guys that we have to talk about, not only because we're mentioning it right now, but he's one of the guys that's on the bubble or in the bubble, however you're supposed to say it, regarding a playoff spot. So right now, Gotham City Rogues is in at 7-5, but a loss can cost them a playoff spot, right? This is very important. They're playing up against Bad Luck Dynasty. And this is one of the reasons why I mentioned that all the injuries that happened during the season, in a way, benefit me. Gotham City Rogues is one of the guys that I have to kind of not beat, but he has to lose. I have to win. He loses Melvin Gordon, his superstar of the season. He has Nick Chubb. He has Matt Breida. They're pretty good replacements, but they're not Melvin Gordon, right? So
incorrect. You're right.
Yeah, so Melvin Gordon. I don't know if I've hyped him enough in this podcast all season. He's been great. So I think this will be a great effect. On top of that, looking at the team, Gotham City Rogues is starting Jameis Winston right now over Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, I've bashed him a lot. He's overrated. But fantasy purposes, playing versus New Orleans, it's probably might be a shootout. He might have to be throwing the ball in the second half. Those are fantasy points right there, and Jameis Winston is hot garbage. So I would look at that. And I'm not even supposed to be telling you this because it would be my benefit that you lose. You also got T.Y. Hilton, who I think is a positive on this team, regardless of all the things we've talked about. He put up 115 yards versus Houston, which is probably one of the best defenses out there. And he put up 77 versus Jacksonville. And now he plays Jacksonville again. Check this out. T.Y. Hilton the last 3 weeks, averaging 19 fantasy points. So I really like that. Another positive on this team, Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz has been great. I know that. He's been a little bit up and down through weeks, but the Eagles finally seem to have found their running game with Josh Adams, and Zach Ertz is a huge benefactor of that. Why? Because now they can go back to what worked for them last year. Those RPOs and those play-action passes, that was not working all season because nobody was biting on any of these running backs. Adams looks like a legit running back.
All right. So for the Bad Luck Dynasty, first of all, we start with their quarterback, Andrew Luck. Paki, I want to say that at least when it comes to fantasy, I'm a believer. I was down on Andrew Luck, but I'm a believer.
You're a hater. It's fine. It's fine. You're a hater. It's okay.
Oh, not a hater. I had to be convinced. I had to be talked into it, but I'm now a believer. That being said, Andrew Luck has won, it looks like 5 games in a row. And I say Andrew Luck because we all knew coming into this that team wasn't much to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
In each one of his last 8 games, Andrew Luck has scored at least 3 touchdowns. And in all of these, he scored at least 21 fantasy points. Andrew Luck is having a stellar year. Winner of 5 in a row, going up against Jacksonville, who is a hot mess right now. He beat them, feels like only 3 weeks ago, maybe, November 11th. And I don't think this will be a different story. It is in Jacksonville, but
I don't care.
You can count on Andrew Luck to put up his 20-plus points.
I'll tell you this about Andrew Luck before you keep going. I know a lot of you guys were bashing Andrew Luck on our group chat, but the fact is that this guy's playing – his shoulder is not 100% because he can't throw that deep. You could tell. And his team is sucking. Like, everything around him is bad. Receivers, line, running backs are like, whatever. And this guy still – look at the Colts. They look like a totally different team from last season. I am a huge Andrew Luck guy. I love this guy. The only thing I hate about him is his post-game press conferences. But besides that, the guy's a monster on the field.
Way too nice. Just way too nice. He gets sacked, and he gives the big
It's my
ups
fault.
to the guy that sacked him.
It's my fault.
I got in your way, sir. I'm sorry. Antonio Brown saw his streak of 8 consecutive games with a touchdown snapped last week. This week, he's going up a pretty tough defense in the Los Angeles Chargers. They give up the 8th fewest fantasy points to wide receivers. I do expect him to get back in the end zone. I'm confident in Antonio Brown. He won't have as bad a game as he had against Denver. Corey Davis, this guy's a wild card. I never know what to expect with him. I don't have a better option, so he is going to play. I'm not going to talk too much about him. He is what he is. Saquon Barkley, Joe Mixon, love both of these, but special, pay attention to Joe Mixon and what happens now. Andy Dalton, with his throwing, kind of opened up a lot of running lanes. He kept the defense on his toes. Now, we're not really sure.
You know what injury I think hurts Joe Mixon even more than Andy Dalton? AJ Green. Because AJ Green is the one that keeps the safeties honest. Now the safeties are going to start creeping in the box. Let's see how Joe Mixon, can get through that.
That being said, Joe Mixon had a pretty quiet first half last week. And he really picked it up in the second half after the end of the Dalton injury. So maybe it was just game plan. Maybe they had nothing else to play for, so they might as well just, not show off too much of what they have in their new quarterback and just keep handing the ball off. But Denver is a defense you can run on. So if you are an owner of Joe Mixon, you start him. CJ Osama, as Gary told us correctly, pronounce his name. Osama, I don't trust this guy. I don't care. He's projected 6 fantasy points. If he gives me at least that, I'm happy. And Adam Humphries is a guy you need to look out for. He's not good enough to be your starter, your set him and forget him. But I think that he is probably the definition of a flex option. And honestly, when I look at these teams side by side, I think it's going to come down to the flex. Adam Humphries has scored touchdowns in his last 4 games. 3 of his last 4 games. Right. If he can make it to the end zone this week, then I think I have a really good chance of winning this. If he scores a touchdown, he's definitely going over that 9-point predicted, and that's pretty much it. That's what I'm counting on to put me over is Adam Humphries.
Yeah, and there's a funny trend, and there's something I'm also going to touch when we go into another team, but it looks like Winston has a better rapport with Humphries, as Fitzmagic has a better rapport with Deshaun Jackson. So one takes, the other one gives,
Correct. That has been the truth all year. All right. Number 3, the straight out of Gotham, currently with a record of 9-3 versus number 14, your team's bye week.
Wait. You didn't pick a winner. Who'd you pick for Gotham City Rogues versus Bad Luck Dynasty? I picked you. I picked Bad Luck Dynasty. Not only because Gotham City Rogues, I don't want them to win, but I think that Melvin Gordon thing is really going to hurt.
Ooh, I'm tempted to pick Rogue just because of the UC jinx. I have a chance.
I can't believe you're believing that crap, dude. I can't believe you're starting to believe that crap. Come on, man, you're better than that. BS.
Why would I ever pick against me? I'm going to go ahead and pick the Bad Luck Dynasty. Last week of the year, I'm going to play spoiler. Sorry, Dago, you're out of the playoff. If it's up to me, Bad Luck Dynasty is going to win that game. Thank you very much. As I was saying, number 3, straight out of Gotham with a record of 9-3, going up against your team's bye week with a record of 2-10, is now officially the worst team in the league. I don't think that there's any chance for anyone to be any worse than Daryl is. He is the worst team in the league. Yes, Daryl, you are the worst team in the league. We should have definitely put something on it. We bet something to embarrass the worst team in the league. That being said, how does the worst team in the league match up against the 9-3, only 3rd place because he's in the same division as the number 1 team? Does he have any chance?
This is like you remember that commercial? Happens in TNT, happens in real life. It's the same thing with fantasy.
Yes.
This is literally like a mirror of the Kansas City Chiefs versus Oakland, which is one of the games this season, this Sunday. The Chiefs versus the Raiders. And I got my Raiders hat today. It's really cold. I love my Raiders, but goddamn do they suck this year. And that's exactly the same thing I can say about
the worst
bye week
team in the league.
Yeah, I mean, just going over your lineup, I mean, I know you're a Giants fan, but Roses, I know he's had a couple of good weeks, but why would you sit Harrison Butker, who's been a solid kicker all year, playing up against Oakland? I mean, Kansas City's probably going to put 50 points on Oakland easily. Oakland sucks. Their defense is horrible. So start there. I mean, I've been talking about this team having the kicker as their best player. Now he's benching their best player. Come on, man. You lose Marvin Jones Jr. That's another hit to you. And you literally have two running backs that if you put them together, they can maybe put together a towel boy. Deion Lewis and Freeman, they're literally become non-existent in fantasy world and in real life, especially Freeman. He's taken a back. He's like all the way in the trunk compared to the Philip Lindsay in Denver. So I really feel bad for this team. The only positive, so I can say something, is Kirk Cousins, who seems to have been picking it up the last couple of weeks after a kind of like iffy fantasy season. So, I mean, yeah, you're still going to lose, bro. I'm sorry. I don't even know why I bothered. Sorry, Darren. Congratulations on the new baby, by the way.
Congratulations. In fairness to your team's bye week, I think Rosas isn't going to make the starting lineup. He's there because Butker was off on a bye week last week. He just hasn't updated his roster. So don't necessarily go by what you see there. Just give him the option or tell him what would be his best starting lineup. It's probably going to be Butker. All right.
Butker, that's a funny name.
Straight out of Goffton, managed to weather the storm last week. He beat Juju Jones, dropping the majority of the season, number 2, all the way down to like the number 5 seed rather. And now he's at full strength. So this is scary. So this is what straight out of Goffton looks like at full strength. Jared Goff, Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, Christian McCaffrey, Philip Lindsay, Rob Gronkowski, and Sony Michel.
Jesus Christ.
Shit. This team is stacked.
My only question is how did Darryl sneak Lawrence Joyner out of Gary's Rams? Because he has every single Rams player, so I'm surprised Darryl got to sneak one out.
I think that's what they bet this week. If Darryl loses, then he has to give up Lawrence Joyner.
Oh my God!
All right, all of these guys are in cupcake matchups, starting with the Los Angeles Rams. They're playing against Detroit. At Detroit, but it doesn't matter. They could have played anywhere. They could have played in DR. It doesn't matter where they play. They are going to stomp Detroit. I found out the name of the best player, by the way, is Darius Slay, but it's not going to matter. He cannot possibly cover all of the receivers in Los Angeles. And by the way, Todd Gurley, who had an off game against Kansas City, and then he took his bye week, he's looking to come back and make some noise. He heard a ton of shit from people saying that he had an off game in the game where everybody apparently went off, except for Todd Gurley. Look for him to have a bounce-back game. Not on this particular matchup, but doesn't really matter. Christian McCaffrey is at a point where he's projecting 22 fantasy points.
He's a monster.
I told you, man, he came off a 200-yard game last week. Oh, man, this dude is amazing.
Dude, he has 3 30-point games in the last 4 weeks.
This is correct, and he scored touchdowns in the last 4 of his last 5 games. The biggest knock on him really coming into the season was that we figured that Cam Newton was going to vulture some of these goal line touchdowns. Hasn't been a concern as of late. He gets the yards and he gets the touchdowns, and he's also getting involved in the passing game. Oh, man, Christian McCaffrey, you got to start him.
Here's a question for you. Do you think Christian McCaffrey is the best receiving running back in the NFL right now?
I'm having a hard time thinking of who's better.
I mean, Todd Gurley should be up there as well, but
I don't think he's as prolific a pass catcher. Yes, he gets a lot of them because of play calling, but he's not making amazing catches. He's just catching in open areas. McCaffrey's a little bit different, though. You don't really have to worry that much about the receivers in Carolina. So there's more of a focus on McCaffrey, and he still makes the catches, which is that's the impressive part to me. Of why I would put him ahead of Todd Gurley. James White apparently makes more of a living catching passes than he does running, but I don't think he's better than McCaffrey. I'm having a really hard time thinking of who's better.
James White is a good one. The thing with James White is he can't break a tackle for his life. That's why. So that's
Um, maybe Duke Johnson has the. Hold on,
no, don't
hear me
bring
out. Hear me out. He has.
no
Listen to me. He has the skill set.
blasphemous.
I'm not saying he's better by any means. I'm saying he has the skill set to be a good, better than average pass catcher. He's just not
Yep,
being
but that
used
wasn't the
in the
question.
offense the way that.
That wasn't the question.
I mean,
Why are we talking about this guy?
if he had the opportunity, could he be a better pass catcher than
No,
McCaffrey?
I will answer that right now. No, he would not.
Okay. All right. I'm just saying. All right. That being said, if you are an owner of Christian McCaffrey, this is a no doubt start, especially against Tampa Bay. The only way you wouldn't start Christian McCaffrey is if you're trying to tank to get a better position for playoffs or just doing your friend a solid. But otherwise, you got him. You start him. Last week, I fawned over Philip Lindsay. Do you think Philip Lindsay cracks top 10, top 15 maybe next year?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question. These undrafted rookies, when they come out of nowhere like that, I wouldn't put him in the top 15. No, I would not. I wouldn't put him in the top 15.
All right. Well, he's definitely a player to consider. He should be up there. So you're saying
Yeah,
that regardless of what size team you play, league you play in, rather, he's going to be a second rounder at best?
a second rounder in the fantasy football draft? Yeah. No, I wouldn't even draft him in the second round. I'm looking at him in the third or fourth, maybe. I just still can't put him up that high. I mean, if I were to make a comparison to a running back based on this season's fantasy draft, I would probably compare him to a guy like Isaiah Crowell, something like that.
What?
Yeah.
How so? This guy is shifty. He's fast. He has some crazy breakaway speed.
Yeah, but
I like Philip Lindsay a lot.
But we're talking about production. I mean, a lot of things can change from here to next season in between with the draft and free agency and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's all about the production. So I'm looking at the production. I think he's very similar in fantasy aspect, kind of like to that Isaiah Crowell, maybe Marshawn Lynch, type. I mean, Marshawn Lynch tanked now, but I'm talking about during the draft, going back to how they were valued. That's how I would kind of put it. Maybe at ceiling, Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook had a pretty high ceiling. He hasn't lived up to the expectation yet, but I just can't put him up there with the top tier guys in the first and second round.
All right, I think we've indulged this matchup long enough. We just wanted to give Gary some love. Gary, you can pretty much sit a couple of players on your team, and you're still going to win this week.
I'm picking Gary, and the fucking unofficial commentators is so stupid that I pick him almost every freaking week, and he's 9-3. So I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. What curse?
Yeah, also, I don't have a clue. I thought he was going to lose.
Every week I pick him because he has all the freaking Rams, except the week he was on bye. And he wins almost every week.
And he won.
And he still won. Yeah. So it's like, I don't get it. Fuck the curse. It's ridiculous.
Enough said. Number 10, Game Pounds at Gordos. Currently at 5-7, is going up against number 7 on the bubble team, 7-5, motherfucking Friend Zone. Oh, man, this is a tight matchup, and this is a matchup that Friend Zone absolutely has to win.
Yes.
That being said, with Gordos being on the slide they've lost 5 in a row. Dude, does Game Pounds at Gordos have a chance here to spoil it for motherfucking Friend Zone?
You mentioned why Game Pounds at Gordos has been losing so much. First of all, Aaron Rodgers has been pretty bad in fantasy.
Ooh.
20 points in only 1 week in the last 5 weeks. Only 1 week he's gone over 20. Completely opposite to the Andrew Luck situation that we talked about.
Is he done? Is he injured?
I don't. I think
overrated.
I don't think it's any of those. I just think it's just a lot of shit is going on in Green Bay. And
Not even injury? Like that's usually what people fall back on.
20 passing touchdowns, one interception. I think it's just Green Bay is a bad team. That's just what it is,
And now they broke the bank to sign Aaron Rodgers, so that's pretty much where they're going to stay.
He's only thrown one interception all year, so I can't say he sucks. I mean, but fantasy-wise, it's different. Fantasy and real life are two different things. He's not playing bad in real life, but he's not playing to Aaron Rodgers' potential. The other issue with Game Pounds at Gold, and I'm not even supposed to be talking about this team, but I know, is the Sterling Shepard and Evan Ingram. I've talked about this a million times. You're starting two giants on your team that barely fucking catch the ball. So That is stupid. But going to motherfucking friend zones, I need them to lose. I'm picking against them, obviously, because I need them to lose. That's number one. And two, there are a couple of things here on this team that I have to pinpoint that I think are going to work in my favor. First of all is Matt Ryan facing Baltimore. I think that's a good matchup for me because I want him to lose. Matt Ryan, I think Baltimore is probably one of the stingiest, if not the stingiest defense this season, regardless of what the stats say. They just play like a really, really good defense. And they've really been very harassing of quarterbacks. So I really like that matchup for me, not for motherfucking friend zone. He also has Jordy Nelson in there. Why the fuck would you have Jordy Nelson in there?
That's a good question.
Why the fuck? I mean, no, not even. You might be like, oh, he's probably going to bench him. Why the fuck is he on your roster? Why is he on a roster? Like, I'd rather pick up Tim Tebow right now, I think, than Jordy Nelson. You got to be fucking kidding me, man.
Yeah.
So many things to pick out of the waiver wire. Regardless of the position need that you have, any of those guys are better than Jordy fucking Nelson right now. The Raiders are fucking hot garbage, and Jordy Nelson has not done anything good, except for one game he had that was good. So get rid of that guy as soon as possible. That's my advice to you, right? And I'm saying that in a good way, not for you to lose. Another guy that you have in there that you might want to move, I shouldn't tell you, is Alex Collins. See, Alex Collins was a healthy inactive last week.
Not totally healthy. There was a report of an injury, kind of the same way that it happened for Evan Ingram, who apparently got hurt in warm-ups or in a pregame workout.
Yeah, but that's different. Alex Collins was questionable all week, and he had a full practice Friday. Full practice, and he was supposed to start, and they not even a bench. He was just inactivated. So that's kind of weird. He's kind of passed down to a second-tier running back. I love how Alex Collins runs. But clearly he's not cutting it. So that's another guy you might want to keep an eye on. And finally, just to say something positive, man, Alshon Jeffrey. Remember what I said about Zach Ertz? The running game is going to open up Zach Ertz. Same thing for Alshon Jeffrey. They're playing against Washington, who has they're ranked, I think, at the bottom 10 of the league in passing. So in passing defense. So Alshon Jeffrey might have a big week. So that's I think where it's going to be the key. Of course, I'm not even going to talk about Elliott and Stephon Diggs. These guys are stars, right? They get it done. So regarding Alshon Jeffrey, he might be a nice surprise for you.
All right. You did a good job of talking about both teams. There's not much.
Yo, my bad. I just wanted to say that because I've been saying it weeks after weeks. Why the fuck are you starting 2 New York Giants on your team that aren't Saquon Barkley or Odell Beckham? I've mentioned that a million times.
Honestly, there isn't much here to pick from. You don't have a lot of depth on your bench. The waiver wire we've known for a while is really thin. You might want to keep an eye out for what goes on the waiver this week, Adeli. You're definitely out of the playoffs. And here's the good news for Paki. So, good news, bad news. The good news is motherfucking friend zone. I've been saying this all year. He is the model. Like, we should make the trophy for La Chepa in the shape of Chef Joe. He wins every single game by the bare minimum. All right? Looking at this projection, it doesn't look like this week is going to be any different. Even with Gordo sliding and losing game after game after game, the projection right now is only 3 points difference. Now, I do think that motherfucking friend zone wins this, right?
Yeah, I'm rooting for gain pounds at Gordo's, but I think motherfucking friend zone should get this one because, God, this team sucks. Who the fuck are all these players on gain pounds at Gordo's? Don't even go to the bench. Please don't go to the bench.
I did, and there's nothing to see there.
Oh, my God, that's fucking sad.
Shit. Christian Kirk, Sterling Shepard, Elijah McGuire somehow made it. I know that Adeli's typically aggressive in going to the wire, and just picking players up before anybody else gets them. You got ahead of the curve with Elijah McGuire, but honestly, what dividends is he paying off? None at all. So
talk about getting ahead of the curve. He picked up James Kumaro from Green Bay, Jake Kumaro. I don't even know who the fuck that guy is, and he's coming back from IR. Talk about beating the curve.
Why is anyone?
I don't know.
Is there even a position for him?
He's a wide receiver. Yeah, I think he's gonna.
No. I mean, I know based on his jersey number that he's a wide receiver, but don't they already have like 6 wide receivers that constantly get play? Like, where are you gonna fit in Kumaro?
Oh, I think Geronimo Allison is injured, but still, I mean. assuming that you're starting for Geronimo Addison, that's the production you're trying to get to be ahead of. Jesus Christ! His best player right now is probably it's Alvin Kamara. But after Alvin Kamara is probably Van Der Esch, the Cowboys linebacker, who's a monster.
I guess position player, not counting Aaron Rodgers.
Well, fantasy-wise, too, Aaron Rodgers ain't doing shit in fantasy. Van Der Esch is giving double-digit points every week.
This is true. All right. Well, the point I was trying to make, Paki, is if by some miracle Friendzone happens to lose, he only has 1,354 points. So 1,354 points for the year. That's the lowest score for one of the closest seeds on the bubble. So if he ends up with the same record as you and many other teams, he's out. He just doesn't have enough points.
Yeah.
And his record is not the worst, but winning every game by the closest possible margin will put you in that situation. So I think no matter how you cut it, we are calling this a bubble team. A lot of things have to bounce the right way for Friendzone to get in. In particular, maybe Rose losing and Friendzone winning. But outside of that, a difference in the actual record, he doesn't have the points to like win any kind of tiebreaker. So sorry to say, man, that's kind of sucks for Friendzone.
Yeah, dude, we got to speed up through all the other matchups because we're running out of time. But I'll tell you this before we move on. Look at me in the camera, Adeli. When you see this video, hit me up on private chat so we can figure out what you're gonna pick up on the waiver wire to replace all these bumps that you have. Because I need you to win, right? I got
Sounds
you.
like collusion.
Collusion. I'm not trading anything, nothing. We're gonna go over what's in free agency, and we're gonna see if we can get something better than this piece of garbage that you did. I mean, I think your team was probably good for Daryl's company right now. You know, so
honestly, dude, let me just make one last point, and then we're out because we do need to move on. It's basically Matt Ryan, Stephon Diggs, and Ezekiel Elliott with a dash of Alshon Jeffrey against Aaron Rodgers, Alvin Kamara, and Van Der Esch.
Yeah,
that's what you got.
That's what you
Whichever
got.
one of these big threes scores the most points, that's who's going to win. That's it.
That's
all I got to say about that. All right. So I know who we were supposed to talk about, but I've decided to make that the game of the week. So we're going to skip that for right now. And we're going to briefly talk about number 13, currently at 2-10, Blessum. And is going up against the number 1 team, 9-3, Hunt for the Wilder Cup. All right.
Why are you calling this the game of the week?
Brainer. This is not the game of the week. I moved the game of the week lower.
Okay, shit, you got me confused. I was like, what the fuck? This is the Chiefs and the Raiders all over again.
Yep. This is the Rams in Detroit.
Oh my God.
All right, so tell me about Blessum.
Oh, okay. Well, Blessum. Well, yeah. I mean, this team is 2-10, bro. I mean, I'm sorry, Omar, you're my boy, but I'm not gonna spend much time on this team. I mean, you started that 2 running back combo from the Bears, Cohen and Howard. I think that's not working because all the points are going to Cohen. Howard hasn't brought up any points. So I think this is about the time that you can start making that move and get him the fuck out of your roster because he's just not bringing it. If not, at first we said it was like the Bernard Hill thing. Remember that one day was one, the other day was the other. That's not happening here. So might as well get rid of that. And if I'm going to talk about something positive, I mean Jordan Reed, man. Colt McCoy likes to use his tight ends. I like Jordan Reed versus Philadelphia. I live here in the city, and apparently nobody in this city knows how to guard a tight end. So Jordan Reed should have a good week versus the Eagles. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to spend much time on this team. I mean, there's just a lot of moving pieces here that for a team that's 2-10. I'm sorry, man. I pick Hunt for the Wilder Cup, by the way. Spoiler alert.
All right. So Hunt for the Wilder Cup, that's also my pick. Russell Wilson, Michael Thomas, Keenan Allen. You got him. You start him. You forget about it. Here's what things get interesting. So luckily for Hunt for the Wilder Cup, this happens on a week where it's pretty much not going to matter. You have enough firepower to avert disaster here. But Leonard Fournette suspended a game. So that may rear its head in another matchup going forward. But for right now, suspended, doesn't really matter. You're not going to miss him this week. Rex Burkhead is available to return against Minnesota. Now, why is it worth mentioning it? Not because you should start Rex Burkhead, but when he came to England, he got a pretty nifty contract. So they're not just going to have him there healthy and not use him. If anything, they'll use him as a change of pace and then just kind of rest some of the guys that have been carrying the load the majority of the year, namely Sonny Michel and James White, and kind of use him more or save him more for the actual NFL playoffs. So why am I talking about Rex Burkhead? Not because you should start him, but possibly because if you're planning to start Michel or James White, you may take a hit. You may take a hit in their production. They may not be their usual selves. They may not get all of the touches. So keep an eye out for that. In this particular league, the League of Haters, the teams that have Michel and White, they're not affected. They have really easy matchups this week. So it's not really going to affect them. But if you're any other team, anyone else who plays fantasy, and you're looking out for who to start, and let's say Burkhead is on the wire, first of all, don't pick him up. They're not going to use him that much. Second of all, they're going to use him just enough to affect White and Michel. That was what I wanted to point out.
It's kind of like a lose-lose situation there.
It pretty much is. Bellatrix all over again.
Bellatrix.
Some of the guys that are on the bench are eventually going to make it to the starting lineup. I do like Russell Wilson against San Francisco a lot more than I like Tom Brady against Minnesota. Everyone else, you start him. You start Edelman. You start Cook. Sorry, I said Cook, but I meant Kareem Hunt. And Adrian Peterson, actually, you have such an embarrassment of riches that Adrian Peterson might not even make it to your starting lineup. But if you are a player of fantasy football, not hunt for the Wilder Cup, you might still want to start Adrian Peterson. That's going to be it. I mean, not too much to say there. This is pretty much a no-brainer in terms of who we're picking. It's going to be hunt for the Wilder Cup. And these are the front runners to make it all the way to the finals. It's hunt for the Wilder Cup and straight out of Goffton.
All right. They're already in the playoffs, 1 and 2 seed, man. They got the bye in the first week.
This is correct. All right. So the next match we're going to talk about is number 12, 3-9. How the hell did he win 3 games? El Perro del Llano versus number 4, 8-4, El Papá de Daphne. That's a name that we've heard here multiple times. But I think it's the first time I've ever seen El Papá de Daphne like seriously involved in the playoff hunt. Has the number 4 record, 8-4, and he has a shit ton of points. 1,500 fantasy points on the dot. This guy is pretty much in the playoffs regardless of what happens here.
And it's crazy that he started like 2-4 or some shit like that. He's won all these matchups in a row.
This is correct. He's on quite a winning streak.
Mm-hmm.
And as he likes to say, had he played you this week, he would have beat your ass.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to put all the hate aside, and I'm going to talk about the Daphne since I don't do all season. I mean, I compare this team, if I was to compare them to a real team in the NFL, it'd be the Houston Texans. And
oh, man, that was what I was going to say.
Yeah, go figure he has Deshaun Watson. I don't know why nobody's talking more about the Texans and why nobody's talking more about Deshaun Watson. I mean, honestly, this guy, Deshaun Watson, 20 touchdowns coming back from an ACL injury, has like 7 games in a row or some shit like that. He's having an awesome season. The Texans are, in my opinion, probably the most complete team in the AFC after Kansas City. And Kansas City is not that complete. They just have so much offense that makes up for it, right? But the Texans have it all. And this team is just like that. They have Josh Gordon. They have Evans. They got Connor. They got Travis Kelce. They literally have pieces up and down this entire roster. If you just look at the Yahoo projections, all of his starting players from the kicker up are projected to be in double-digit scoring. So that is a very well-balanced team. Like I said, they're literally like the same story as the Houston Texans. Talking real football, I really think the Houston Texans have a legit chance to make the Super Bowl, bearing any injury, because they can spoil Kansas City's playoff run. In the cold, in Kansas City gets freezing. With that defense, they might be able to do something. But I really think this team is going somewhere. Travis Kelce's going versus Oakland. There's no way this guy's going to lose this week. You know, James Conner is back. I don't care if he's playing up against the Chargers. He puts it together. And Deshaun Watson versus Cleveland. I mean, Mike Evans versus Carolina. They have a horrible secondary. This team, I hate picking him. He's my fucking rival. Fantasy-wise, I fucking hate him, but I can't pick against him because Guica's team sucks, man.
Yeah, his team does suck, and I
I
don't
mean,
want to
I
talk
don't.
about it too much. I'm going to pick it up by the Daphne to win this one. So let me just talk a little more about this team. So James Conner, he's been on a decline ever since he found out for sure that the job is his. He has a little bit of the Ryan Fitzpatrick syndrome. Um, Ever since it was a definite that there was no chance of uh, Le'Veon Bell coming back, 13, 8, and 9 fantasy points in his last 3 outings, and not even against like really scary defenses. They won 2 of those games, by the way.
Mhm.
Um, and now he does go up against a scary defense. He's projected for 18 fantasy points, but the Chargers are no joke. And speaking of the Chargers, you didn't mention Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler looks like the biggest mouth to feed with Melvin Gordon being out,
True.
and he's a very
Yes, sir.
respectable um, running back. And Melvin Gordon was out a game because of injury, and they didn't miss a beat with Austin Eckler. So keep an eye out for him. If you are a player outside of League of Haters and you don't currently own Austin Eckler, you should definitely go pick him up. Just to be fair, let me just talk about El Perro del Llano. You're not winning this week. I
No.
mean, just take that thought out of your head. You're not winning this week, but you have a couple of juicy matchups. Case Keenum against Cincinnati. He's good for a number of points. Austin Amari Cooper. I'm sorry. Amari Cooper was actually the second highest individual fantasy scorer last week. In our league, he scored 34 fantasy points, 180 yards, and 2 touchdowns against Washington. New Orleans, as you mentioned before, this is liable to be a shootout.
Yeah.
So he might still get some yards. However, he's going up a pretty tough defense in New Orleans. They don't play no games. I mean, they score a bunch of points, they get off the field quick, and they give you a chance to work the ball, control the clock, however you want to call it. But
Mhm.
they did that to Philadelphia, and they just romped all over Philadelphia, and they also romped all over Atlanta while keeping them to really low scores. So there isn't much of a scoring potential for Amari Cooper, but he's getting yards for sure. Golden Tate, couple of catches his last game out, but nothing to write home about. I still feel like there isn't a role that's established for him there. Um, they struggle to get consistent production out of the wide receivers. Aaron Jones, welcome to the NFL. He's looked respectable his last 3 outings, 30 points, 24 fantasy points, and then he takes a little dip and he goes down to 16 fantasy points, but double digits in his last 3 games. Aaron Jones is putting up numbers for you, and Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook is back. You also have Peyton Barber as your flex. To have a starting running back of an offense that scores as often as Tampa Bay in your flex spot is pretty decent if you were any other team, but you just don't have enough to catch the balance of by the Daphne. By the Daphne's going to win this one. Guiga's going to finish the year at 3-10. Um, Thanks for the try. Better luck next year. At least we know next year you'll have the team all to
I can't.
yourself, and
Yeah.
then there'll be no excuses.
Yeah. I can't
No
wait to
excuses.
see Guico manage his own team, man. I think he'll do a good job.
Not why I saw this year.
I mean, he
Understanding
didn't
this team,
draft this crappy team though.
I understood, but shit, you gave up Leonard Fournette to the strongest team in the league. I do not, I cannot, I don't forgive you for this.
He had to make moves, man. You can't blame him. By the way, the James Conner thing, it's been a little rough for him. He was hurt. I mean, he didn't miss significant time. He was hurt. 2 road games at Jacksonville, at Denver, and then add to that, this is my crack with every single rookie running back when they come into the league.
You're
College,
crack.
yeah, it's my thing. Like my like it's my the thing, the weakness that they have. I'm sorry, maybe I didn't say that properly.
Yeah,
Here's
I've
here,
never heard this. You're crack.
the crack in the shield, man. You've never heard of that?
No,
What a crack? Okay, well, the crack in the shield with the running backs, with the rookie
the
running
chink
backs,
in their armor.
whatever you want to call it. The
No
problem is,
offense, Donnie.
Jesus. The problem is that in high school you play 10 games, in college you play 11, and now we're in week 13. You know what I mean? And there's a lot more traveling. There's a lot of wear and tear for James Conner. So more than the Le'Veon Bell thing, I think is more of that is just the reality of football. You know, pro football,
Why
man.
why did you mention this? He's not a rookie.
This is his first year starting, bro. He had like 10 carries last year. I mean, he's not a rookie, but you really.
Still traveled.
But he
Didn't get hit
wasn't.
as much.
He
Wasn't
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 getting hit
running
300
fast.
times a year.
Okay.
didn't get hit as much. Didn't get hit at all compared to this.
I guess I'll grant you that. All right. Currently 8th place on the outside looking in, but another bubble team, 6-6, Daphne Culo Ancho, with a combined overall score of 1,450 points, has an outside shot to still get in, but don't take this matchup lightly. You still have to beat Bruised Wayne. Bruised Wayne is the 11th ranked team with a record of 5-7. All right. Is there a chance for Bruce Wayne against you this week?
I don't think so. I'm picking myself, but a couple of things have to go my way for me to make the playoffs. First thing is Gotham City Rogues and motherfucking Friend Zone both have to lose, and I have to outscore Gotham City Rogues. That's the kicker.
Talk about Bruce Wayne.
Wait, hold on. That's the kicker right there. So I got to find a way to score more points. I really think winning is not a problem for me this season, this week. I'm sorry, because Bruce Wayne, that team is just not looking like a team that I'm scared of right now. Deshaun Jackson, we mentioned it earlier. Now with the Jameis Winston, his production just hasn't been there. Jalen Richard, I'm a Raiders fan. Take it from a Raiders fan. Why the fuck do you have him in your starting roster? This is like Jordy Nelson all over again. No point in having him. You have how do you say it, Kiki Coty?
I always hear them pronounce it Cutie. I don't know why you say
Kiki
anything
Cutie.
different.
I don't know. I don't watch that many Houston games. Kiki.
Good. You just called them to be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, because I watch a lot of highlights, but I don't see a lot of their games. Kiki Cutie, dude. These I'm sure he's going to start Demaryius Thomas over him. And the same for Jalen Richard. He's probably going to start LeGarrette Blount. But these are guys that you shouldn't even have on your team. If we're going to talk about anything positive, I'd say probably is DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, you're going to have both of the Houston wide receivers, and my money will always be on DeAndre Hopkins over anybody. The guy's a monster. I know you hate him, Jay, but he's pretty good. So
who do I hate?
DeAndre Hopkins. I know he's like your least favorite receiver, isn't he?
Are you on drugs?
I'm being sarcastic.
The best receiver in football.
I'm being sarcastic, and that means a lot coming from a Giants fan. So
there's nothing that guy won't catch.
Yeah. I mean, besides that, I mean, Theo Reddick, it's just I don't really see Phillip Rivers.
His entire career is shitty quarterbacks, and he's always been at the top of his game.
Yeah, even Phillip Rivers. The Chargers have had a great season, but Phillip Rivers hasn't had a 20-point game since week 7. So I don't think this team has enough. That's why he's 5-7. I don't think this team has enough to beat me this week. I'm sorry, cuz you're my boy, but got to keep it real.
Well, that being that, we'll move over to Daphne Culo Ancho, who gets back Patrick Mahomes. I feel that although I won by 30-plus points last week, if you had Patrick Mahomes, there's an outside chance there that you would have got the win.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely should have a better record than 6-6 if you have Patrick Mahomes.
Dude.
Anyway,
you know what's crazy? I've had such, and I'm not going to say it's bad luck. I think I've done all the right moves this season when it comes to roster movements, but I just haven't been able to put 1 week my best starting roster. Like, dude, I am sucking it on that part. No, I know, but that's why I'm 6-6, because I have the players to be better. I'm just not starting them at the right week.
It's just football, man. I mean, talk about not starting him at the right week. Lamar Miller, he had a beast game yesterday. Shit, you put him in your starting lineup now against Cleveland. Might be a case of too little, too late. Lamar Jackson has a tendency to have 2 big games in a row, and then he has kind of a low game. So, week 6, 8 fantasy points. Week 7 and 8, 16 and 19. Then week 9, 5 fantasy points. There's a bye week, and then 2 weeks, 1 of 12 points, 1 of 23. The 23 highlighted by a 97-yard run for a touchdown. Who knows what a day would have looked like without that. And now he goes against Cleveland. I expect his score to dip again. Duke Johnson didn't have a great game last week, but I don't think the defense
That's
in
David Johnson.
Oh, sorry, David Johnson. My apologies.
Fucking Duke Johnson. Why do you keep talking about Duke Johnson on this?
I don't know.
Podcast?
He's on my head now.
Jeez.
Oh, what the hell did I do here? All right. So David Johnson, he didn't have a good game last week, but I'm not scared of the Green Bay defense, so I expect him to bounce back. Emmanuel Sanders still hasn't found his way into number 1 receiver territory. Decent game, a respectable game. Mainly
18 points and 12 targets is a decent game. 18.
Well, I'm not I'm not concerned about the targets. What the hell do I care about the targets? There was 7 receptions, 1 touchdown, and 86 yards. I'm sorry, is a decent game. I mean, just that without the touchdown puts you in really low territory. So, are we talking about the same thing here?
I think Sanders is a number 1 receiver. I really do.
You are out of your mind.
I think Robinson has left a lot. Like, I was expecting a little bit more from Robinson. His weeks are too up and down.
Allen Robinson, you're right,
Yeah.
but it's going to be his second straight game without Trubisky, and he and Trubisky have the best connection there. I don't think that with Chase Daniels, he's going to blow anyone's mind, but he's going against the Giants, and they have really shitty defense. I'm not scared of their defense either. Josh Adams, you mentioned it before, going up against Washington. Washington is a really strong run defense, but it looks like they've been embarrassed lately. There was a point where they had allowed the second fewest yards to all receivers, but everything got thrown out of whack now that they're without Alex Smith, and they've dropped to the 11th best defense against the run. So who knows about that? They did sign, help me out with the name here. Is it Reuben Foster, the guy?
Foster, yeah, but they said he won't play until he figures out his legal things.
So why the hell even sign him?
I don't know. To stash him.
So someone else doesn't get him, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think you're doing the right thing here by not starting LaShawn McCoy. I think it's done for Shady, man. It's Dunsville. Chris Carson. I don't know how he
don't tell me that. Don't tell me he's done for Shady when you fucking killed me that week. I didn't start him because I told you he was fucking done.
Wait, that was me?
That was you. Yes,
No.
that was you.
Get out of here.
We can go back and fucking check that shit.
I can go back. Rewind. I'll wait. All right. Chris Carson. I don't know how he hasn't broken into your starting lineup against San Francisco. They're not a scary defense. Allowed the 17th. I mean, they're worse than the 50th percentile in terms of defenses against the run. And he's playing at home. I would definitely start Chris Carson.
Who would you bench for Chris Carson?
Who would I bench for Chris Carson? Shit. I like Chris Carson against San Francisco more than I like Lamar Miller against Cleveland.
Solid. That was actually passing my mind. I'm also a little bit torn with Kenyon Drake, too.
No, Kenyon Drake, I can't rely on him. Get him the fuck out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
And for whatever it's worth, Buffalo's defense is pretty good. I trust them. And Miami's offense is just pathetic. And I'm pretty sure the moment you decide to start Kenyon Drake, that'll be the moment that he gets injured and misses half of the game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's between Lamar Miller and Chris Carson.
Yep. If you're an owner faced with this dilemma, I would start Chris Carson. I like the matchup, particularly this week, and a must-win. But you know what? I will take this back in the specific case of Paki because he's playing for a playoff spot. And if you lose because you put in Chris Carson instead of Lamar Miller,
you imagine?
Zero responsibility for this shit.
I never blamed you. I blamed myself.
I'm leaving this up to you. That being said, though, you're projecting double digits from quarterback to flex. Even if you decide to sub in Chris Carson, you still have a definite advantage. So, I'm going Daphne Kuluanchi to beat Bruised Wayne.
By the way, I am sticking with Erick Ebron, especially now that Jack Doyle is gone. That's another injury that benefited me in a way. So
correct. And Erick Ebron, man, I keep hearing this. 11 touchdowns? I mean, shit. Mm-hmm. Erick Ebron having himself a year.
Yeah, he's having a great year, man. He is.
All right. So this is the matchup I decided to move down in our slate and call it the game of the week. So these two teams playing in the same division have flip-flopped for the number 2 and number 5 spots a number of times this year. Currently number 5, 8-4, Juju Jones going up against number 2, 8-4, Gin and Druce. There is another outside chance, not outside of the realm of possibility, where one of these teams can go from being 8-4 this week to 8-5 and out of the playoffs altogether.
Do you imagine that? No, they can't be out of the playoffs if I would be able to make it.
There's a chance.
No.
Even if you don't, there's a definite chance. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. You currently have more points total than Gin and Druce. And
but I'd be 7-6 though if I win.
You're right.
8-5.
Yeah, there's a chance. We'll talk about that soon enough. Let's save some time for that. Let's talk about the matchup though. So number 5 overall, 8-4, Juju Jones versus number 2 overall, 8-4, Jin and Drews. Tell me, make your case for Jin and Drews winning this week.
All right. First of all, you know what? I'll tell my pick. I'll say my pick at the end just to keep it interesting. And fuck the curse. But if we're gonna talk about Jin and Drews, there's a couple of things that kind of stand out to me that are not good. It's Michael Crabtree and Willie Snead. I know Willie Snead is not in your starting lineup, but I was looking through your team, and that's the only wide receiver that you would be able to start for Michael Crabtree. And the problem is we already talked about it. Lamar Jackson. He's drained everybody else's fantasy points. So I don't know if there's any real value in Crabtree nor Willie Snead. So that's pretty tough moving forward. Then you also have Derrick Henry, he hasn't been great, but I'm really looking for him to kind of be used more because Dion Lewis hasn't done much. So he's somebody that I would consider getting in that starting lineup. Maybe put Josh Doxson at wide receiver and put Henry at the flex and bench Michael Crabtree. I think that might be more viable. But yeah, then again, here's the problem. Another problem is Drew Brees. He's been great, but he's on the road. And, it's a dome in Dallas, but Drew Brees is not the same player when he's on the road. He even had a 6-point game and a 15-point game on the road, an 8-point game on the road. Yeah, he did have some killer games against Atlanta, 39 points, and against the Bengals, 28 points. But in the majority, he doesn't do that great on the road. This is historically with Drew Brees. So a lot of question marks in this team. Besides, obviously, your running backs, Melvin Ingram and Todd Gurley, which is your forte, and Adam Thielen has been excellent also. But so many things that can go right and so many things that can go wrong with this team. I'll just leave it there so I can give my pick at the end.
Ooh. All right. Well, for Juju Jones, and by the way, shout out to Joel Brito. He was in the New York area. I got a chance to catch up with him.
I saw that you guys went to 123 Burger Shots, man. I love that place.
We got a chance to catch up, and always a nice time making their acquaintance. I also got a chance to catch up with one of my buddies from college. So
I was hoping we all met in New York because I was in New York for Thanksgiving, but he was somewhere else.
Shit happens. All right. Cam Newton against Tampa Bay is a matchup that I can sink my teeth into. Absolutely
yes.
Go all the way with Cam Newton. He lost his last he's lost his 3 last games, but even in his last 2 games, even with losses, he still put up over 20 fantasy points. This should be no different. Another one of those shootouts. Jameis Winston versus Cam Newton, must-see TV if you like scoring. Devontae Adams against Arizona, a chance for Devontae Adams, especially for Aaron Rodgers, who's looking to prove himself to get back there. We didn't mention this, but I put up a stat that I saw. Green Bay and now the Cleveland Browns, they both have the same record, 4-6-1.
That's crazy.
That is crazy when you talk about having what did I call him? If Tom Brady is the GOAT, Aaron Rodgers is the Bees. He's a BIES, best I've ever seen is his new nickname.
Every time that people talk about fucking Brady and Rodgers comparison and Manning, I feel fucking disrespected for Drew Brees, bro. Drew Brees is fucking amazing. This guy's overlooked all the time, but that's a topic for another day. I just had to say it.
Thanks. All right, Julio Jones. He has found his way into the end zone. Each of the last 3 – well, actually, he didn't find his end zone against New Orleans, but prior to that, 3 of the last 4 games. I did call that it was time for Julio Jones to blow up, and he did. He started scoring touchdowns after I said that. So against Baltimore, it's going to be a challenge. It's an uphill battle. Baltimore is a stingy defense. Marlon Mack, I heard he's dealing with a concussion. He might come back because that's typical in football players, right? You're concussed 1 week, that's 1 week off, and then you come back and play. Mm-hmm. But he might not be at 100%. So this concern here is twofold. First of all, who do you put in for Marlon Mack if you're Juju Jones? Well, Kerryon Johnson is also out. You might want to you don't have an abundance of options here, but keep an eye out for Marlon Mack. You don't want to be caught with your pants down and end up being left without the option to put anyone in there. And that being said, there's a chance that Nyheim Hines becomes the feature back in Indianapolis, but either case, they're going up against Jacksonville. Jacksonville gives up the fewest fantasy points to any running back in fantasy. So there you go in terms of that. Gus Edwards has made a definite splash. He hasn't been scoring the touchdowns necessarily for whatever reason. It seems like Lamar Jackson even saps that part of his strength, but he gets yards. I projected he'll get 100+ yards. He's not a dependable option in PPR, specifically because of Lamar Jackson, but he'll get you yards. And if you're looking for yards, if you're looking to keep pace, if you're looking just not to get a zero, this is not a bad dude to start. I don't know how you ended up with George Kittle. If you definitely didn't draft him, because nobody knew the name George Kittle.
He was draftable. He was definitely draftable.
But did he get drafted in this season? I don't
yeah,
think
he
so.
did get drafted in this league. He was, remember, with Jimmy Garoppolo, and the way he ended last season, he was a tutored tight end. I just don't know if he drafted him or got him somewhere else, but I drafted him in a couple of fantasy. Touted, whatever the fuck. I'm sorry about that.
Touted is a fart, so touted is something totally different.
Well, yeah, he's definitely not a fart.
All right, so George Kittle against Seattle. We're still not buying Nick Mullins. Yeah, he looked good against the Raiders, but who doesn't? And after that, Seattle is a team that's in the hunt right now, so they're not trying to give up anything wherever possible. Juju Smith-Schuster may get one of those amazing games where he.
No, you should bench him. You should bench him. Start Tyler Lockett. Definitely better.
Well, Tyler Lockett finds his way into the end zone over and over and over.
Yeah, even more.
Tyler Lockett.
He's definitely better than Juju Smith-Schuster.
Tyler Lockett has touchdowns in the 3 of his last 5 games. His best game being his last game where he had 107 yards on 5 catches. But he's good for his 5 catches. They're not always as productive as 107 yards. But if you're faced with the option of starting Juju Smith-Schuster and Tyler Lockett, I would suggest that you start Juju Smith-Schuster. All right. That being said, you want to make your pick absolutely last?
Yeah, I think this is extremely even, head to toe. I mean, you have strong running backs versus strong wide receivers. Gin and Drews with the strong running backs, Juju Jones with the strong wide receivers. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go with Juju Jones for the pick, because every single player on Gin and Drews' roster is playing away. And as a betting man, I've always been told home team has a higher probability to win. So Juju Jones has at least a couple of players that are playing at home versus nobody at home. It's kind of weird for me. So I'm going to go with Juju Jones.
Oh, man. This is a tough one. But
yeah, man, you got extremely good running backs, extremely good wide receivers. It's very tough.
Yes, and I mean, it's not like he has a slouch. There's Adam Thielen and also Drew Brees. But in this one, and this may favor,
it's tough.
I think Donnie's gonna like this. I'm gonna go with Juju Jones.
Donnie's gonna like it because of the damn curse, the aforementioned curse.
The jinx, the curse.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Juju Jones this week.
It's like we don't even pick the same guy every time, so it's fucking stupid for them to say that there's a curse.
I don't know. I don't like Crabtree in your starting lineup. I don't trust Doxson. Those are 2 huge gaps that I don't think you'll be able to make up, even with the fact that Todd Gurley basically plays or scores enough points for 2. Mm-hmm. But you never know, man. If it's a passing game and he gets kind of left out of the offense, a la the game against Kansas City. So you just never know. You can't bank on the fact that he's absolutely going to get all the points all the time. It may not be enough to save you. That being said, it's time to take a very brief look at the playoff picture. So, for starters, we have the teams that are definitely in. We have 2 teams that are 9-3. That's Hunt for the Wilder Cup and Straight Outta Goffton. The reason they're 1-3 respectively, is because they're in the same division. But they're the only 2 teams that are 9-3 right now. Gin and Drews is currently in first place, or first place in his division, second place overall. And right behind them, we have El Papá de Daphne, and right behind him, we have Juju Jones. Now, this matchup we just talked about is probably the most important one in terms of seeding. If the winner of this one is going to get a bye week in the first week, so that you need the bye week. You want the bye week.
Mm-hmm.
El Papá de Daphne, he lost the head-to-head against Gin and Druce. And I would have to look at the head-to-head against Juju Jones, given though that El Papá de Daphne is on a 5-game or win streak or whatever it is, unless he lost to Juju Jones early. If Juju loses, and it's a chance that, well, Gin and Juice will definitely be bye week, and then El Papá de Daphne is going to be um, solidly number 4, and then Juju stays at number 5. So
you fucking
nothing.
lost me. Whoever's listening to this, take a pen and paper, okay, and hit rewind and play that again and start drawing it out, because even I got lost.
That's pretty much what happened. So if Gin and Juice wins, everything stays the same. If Juju Jones wins, it goes haywire, and it all gets a little bit crazy.
It's gonna be interesting. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And El Papá de Daphne has a pretty easy road to winning his week. So
I love this.
Games to keep an eye on. Teams that are on the bubble, Rogues has a tough matchup. I've won, I think it's 3 in a row. I could double check that, or at least 2 in a row. Yeah, whatever. The point is, this is a really tough matchup for the Gotham City Rogues. Is going to come down to Calvin Ridley, quite honestly. If he can have one of those breakout games that he's had in the past, he may topple me this week. If somehow Adam Humphries finds the end zone, I'm pretty confident that I can take this week. So Gotham City Rogues in a must-win game with 1,493 points. He's still ahead of you in points. So if he wins and everyone else loses, and even if you win, well, you're definitely out. But if he loses and you win and you're tied, he has more points than you.
Yeah, I have to win and put up a lot of points. That's my only way.
Yeah, you have to win and you have to outscore him. Friend Zone is on the outside looking in. He's on the bubble. He has the same record as Gotham City Rogues. So if Gotham City Rogues loses but Friend Zone wins, Friend Zone win, they're in. So Friend Zone has to win to get in and then hope for a Gotham City Rogues loss. You have to hope that both Rogues and Friend Zone loses, and then also that you double basically the amount of points that Rogues put up, because he's already up on you by 43 points. So 43 points is not an easy score to make up.
It isn't. It's tough.
Your team, while you
I have
win,
like a 2% chance to make it, but
while you win a decent amount of games, you're not a team that's constantly coming up in the awards as biggest blowout or highest score. So this is something that it's an uphill climb for you, but outside chance, you might still get in. All right, so I feel good about this show, man, and that's basically all I really had to say. That's the playoff picture. We'll be back next week to talk about fantasy playoffs, and we'll continue to advise a lot of the players still in the playoffs and see if they even care about our advice. Shout out to a lot of the players who we're not going to see for the rest of the fantasy playoffs. Players like Saquon Barkley, Aaron Rodgers, DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green. Who else is out that's not getting back in? Odell Beckham is not going to be in there at the end. A lot of really popular names not going to make it in the fantasy playoffs, at least not for our league. So rest in peace to them. And, there's always next year. Paki, you have any idea what we're going to be doing when fantasy football season is over? Are we going to move on to fantasy basketball?
Moving right to basketball, man. That's how we go, bro. We go by seasons as well. So it's been a great football season so far. A lot of surprises. This is probably our last regular season episode. So, man, from there on out, we move on to the NBA and so on. That's how we roll.
Not probably, most definitely. So there'll be less matchups to talk about when the fantasy playoffs are going on. And we've already discussed that there aren't any trades or bye weeks or anything to account for. So, that is pretty much going to be that. And we can start talking about basketball, which, by the way, after starting 0-3, I've won 3 in a row, and I'm looking to make it a 4th. So, hey, keep an eye out for Kawhi 5-0.
All right, man. I think that pretty much wraps it up. It was an excellent episode, guys. Don't forget to leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the like button. And don't forget to share this video with your friends. Shout out to our producer, Dago. Peace.
Where do we like and watch and all of these things? You can watch us on YouTube at Unofficial Commentators. You can also find us.
You just ruined the perfect exit.
On Facebook. You can find us on Twitter at UC_podcast. We're on Instagram where you'll catch Paki's waiver wire segment this week at Unofficial Commentators. With that being said, shout out to our producer Dago. Peace. I got the last word.
Peace. Yo, Dago, if you're still listening to this, obviously you're going to cut this part out. I think a perfect name for this episode is Crack in the Armor, by the way. Just throwing that out.
My crack against these players.
All right, man. Anything else?
That's it for me.
All right, bro. I'll talk to you later. I got to convert this shit. I'm on the PC now, so this should convert a lot faster because this PC is fucking awesome.
We are going to have to discuss how we're going to approach basketball matchups. I mean, they don't like basketball players don't have one matchup per week. So it's for us, it's pretty much start whoever's playing, unless, you have two of the same position going in that case.
Okay, listen. Yo me estoy cagando, me estoy orinando. Oh, wait, I have to stop recording.